Hello and welcome to Do the Impossible with Jason and Stephen, the podcast that seeks to inspire and amaze you. And now please welcome your hosts, Jason Michaels and Stephen Bargatze. Welcome to Do the Impossible with Jason and Steve, the podcast that seeks to inspire and amaze you. My name is Jason Michaels.
Stephen Bargatze.
And today we are joined by an amazing special guest. This is episode number 3, and this is our very first special guest, and we're still learning. So you never know about like some of the technical stuff, but we'll clean it all up and make sure that it's fantastic for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really tell our guests that this was only our third one. So we were trying to keep that a secret because he might not have joined us. So thanks for letting that out of the bag, Jason.
Well, you know, but we have an amazing special guest, Bryan Anderson. The reason we have been able to get in touch with Bryan Anderson is through Stephen, and Stephen and Bryan have done some events together. Bryan is a veteran. He is a triple amputee, a spokesperson for multiple companies, an author of an amazing book that I just started reading the other day, an actor. The man does a lot of stuff, very cool stuff. And welcome to the podcast. Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We're super excited to have you.
Well, I guess so. No, I met Bryan for the U.S. Cares. I believe that's what it was. The first
USA Cares, yeah.
Yeah, USA Cares, but there's Hope for Warriors and Wounded Warriors. I've seen Bryan, and he was just always there speaking. I saw him speak to a high school of kids, and got down and he was doing push-ups, and it just blew me away. And
that was in Texas, right?
Yeah, that was in Texas.
Yeah,
and that was my first experience of Bryan Anderson, and we hadn't met. You were just there, and I remember thinking, I want to meet this guy. This is unreal. But of course, he got swamped by all the kids, and everybody wanted to talk to him. So I had no chance. But then found out later he was actually with the group I was with, so I got to spend a weekend with him.
Oh, that's awesome.
And since then, we've probably done about 5 or 6 of these things together.
Oh, yeah. We got Children's Charity, the Bluegrass. We did the Texas Wounded Warriors. USA Cares Gala.
That sounds like that, but there was 2 of each one of those. So it's been more than I played golf with Bryan.
Yeah.
You know what? We have, you gave me a video of Bryan. It looks like you're hitting a driver or something, and it looks like you smoked it. We'll drop this video in here. And how long have you been playing golf?
Since I was a teenager, really, in high school and all that. We were very athletic and we loved playing. And my uncles had taught me and my twin brother how to play golf.
Okay.
So we were pretty good at it. And then, I got blown up and everything changed. And I tried doing it with 2 hands on legs, doing whatever. And it just did not work the same way. And I'm just like, man, it's kind of depressing to not be able to hit the ball like you used to.
Right.
And so I was.
Tell me about it. I turned 65 the other day. I can't hit it like I used to.
Until I just decided to, let's see what happens when I do it one-handed. And doing it one-handed, holy crap, it's so much better. And I did crush that ball that you're talking about. I'll be right back.
All right, Bryan has pumpkin seeds in the oven, and when we started the podcast, he was like, hey, as long as you're cool with me going and checking my pumpkin seeds, we can start the podcast. And I was like, I love it. Stephen says that we should put the pumpkin seed recipe on the show notes. We'll have to see if Bryan's willing to give up that information. But so tell us, Stephen, just you let us know how the 2 of you met, and Bryan is a speaker, and we're going to have him in just a moment kind of break it down for us. But tell us just a little bit about what you told us about your first impression, but give us a little bit more detail about your experience meeting Bryan for the first time.
Well, there's no doubt it was just his upbeat personality, because I see a guy that got blown up and he's missing 2 legs and an arm, and that you would just think would be like, oh crap, and my life is da 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 da. I mean, he had none of those. Yeah, he was just so much about the fun in life and having fun and doing things that are great, and he just seemed to go with the flow with everything, and it was just like when like I said, when we read his book.
Oh yeah, he doesn't mess around in his book. On page 1 of the very first chapter, the very first sentence, it says, "On the day I got blown up, it was hot as hell." I mean, he just goes straight to it.
Yep. And it's an amazing read. It's got some chapters that I wouldn't want my teenage girl reading about. But
They're almost done. Sorry.
And I was talking about your book. I said it's amazing read, but it's got a couple chapters I wouldn't want my granddaughter to read until she's 21. But other than that,
about the sex part or about the swearing part?
Yeah, that would be the part. You got it out of the way, but it answers all those questions.
Oh, are these the pumpkin seeds?
These are pumpkin seeds, yeah.
All right, they look no different. Why did you cook them?
Huh?
Except they're not as slimy.
Need like 5 more minutes.
All right.
All right, so Brian, so I think that when people hear the introduction, all the different things that you do, I mean, they're just intrigued as to how you can do so many things. So why don't you back us up and just, you can go into as much or as little detail as you want to, but tell us a little bit about you.
The name of the book was No Turning Back.
The name of the book is No Turning Back by Bryan Anderson with David Mack, and
Available at Amazon.
Available at Amazon. And so tell us, I one of the cool things that I read was that your deployment date, was that September 11th, 2001?
Well, technically, but that's not necessarily my deployment date. That was my ship out to basic training date.
Okay, yeah.
And
So
so
you
I
had
left
already
for
enrolled.
basic training on September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
And, everything changed that day. Was a military police officer. I didn't realize I was smart until I got in the military. Wish I would have done that when I was in school. But, just late to the party, and then going through being in the military and having experiences, seeing different countries, and then getting blown up and coming back. I didn't know what my life was going to be like or what kind of quality of life I could have. At the same time, I was alive and missing 3 limbs, but I told myself, you know what? You're alive. Take it a day at a time, see where it goes. Because if you put a mental block on yourself, you're not going to be able to go do anything. So
Right.
If you take it one day at a time and see where things go and let that natural progression happen, because, one day it was like, oh, all of a sudden, hey, I'm sitting up, I'm getting into a wheelchair. I could only spend 10 minutes in the chair before I wanted to go back into bed. But then the next day I was in the chair for like 4 hours. So there was like a growth progression there. And that kind of validated things that I was doing, and I could see progress. And so that helped me, keep moving on and keep just taking it a day at a time. And
I know in your book, you talked about your mom.
yeah,
And the effect that how she kind of got you out of just real
Well,
quick. I think that's a great part of the story.
there's a lot of different things we could talk about.
Yes, there is.
Mom being part of that and the support that I had. And yeah, she and the therapist recognized that I was showing signs of depression, and all they had to do was tell me that I was depressed. I'm like, what? You're crazy. And then that weekend I realized, holy crap, I am depressed. And, next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Vegas after crying in the shower. And I don't know, needed to experience real life again. And I spent 3 days in Vegas with my best friend, Sarah, and my mom. And I had a good time. And that forced me to live in the moment and focus on what was in front of me. And so I get back to Walter Reed, and it's not going to be this easy for everybody or like that. But I made a mental decision like, hey, do you want to be depressed and sit in self-pity and wallow or whatever? Or you want to go out and have fun? I'm going to go out and have fun. And so then I just started going out and having fun again. And then that kind of just took everything away. And I was just starting to live my life and making friends at Walter Reed. And then all of a sudden, LA Times had did an article on me, and then after that, Esquire magazine called and said, "Hey, we want to do an article on you too." I'm like, okay. I didn't even know who Esquire was yet, and they spent a couple days with me. And then as I left Walter Reed in January of 2007, I actually left in December, but the issue came out like 2 weeks before the end of the year. And so technically, I came out on the cover of the January issue of 2007, but it came out 2 weeks before the end of 2006.
Okay.
And that just kind of exploded and opened the door for everything.
So
Right.
you were blown up in October 2005, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and you left there January 2007?
6.
December 2006.
6.
Okay.
Yeah, so almost a year at
It was about 13 months.
wow.
Give me 1 second. I got to go pull these out again. I apologize.
Okay.
You don't have to apologize for anything. This is
Nobody
yeah.
wants burnt pumpkin seeds.
It's all good. It's all good. Going back to the pumpkin seeds to get those out and make sure. I'm gonna have to try this recipe. They sound really good. But so I think one of the things that we should do is let Bryan kind of take us back to that pivotal moment when life changed a little, not a little bit, life changed massively for him. And so our listeners and our viewers can understand. As he said a moment ago, and as I was reading in the book, he was military police and out doing his job. Bryan, I understand from your book that you were driving a Humvee, and then there was it was an IED that exploded, and that is the moment that basically everything changed for you.
Yep, pretty much.
Explain exactly what was happening at that moment.
Maya.
Maya is not his girlfriend. It's his
My dog.
that's his dog. I've spent a lot of time with Maya. I saw Maya get loose at a golf course once, created complete mayhem for all these kids. But again, go back.
Flynn's golf ball.
Yes. Tell us a little bit again. Go back to that day. You're sitting in the car. You're driving, and I believe you reach back because you still have use of part of one of your hands, and just I think that's an interesting story. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a full fist, but I still have use of my hand. I wouldn't say part of my hand.
Okay, use of his hand.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, we were headed to the first Iraqi police station, and we were doing like 5 miles an hour. We were going really slow, creeping kind of through. We were waiting for traffic to clear up ahead of us. And so I was slouched in my chair. I had my left leg curled up underneath my right leg and my right leg down driving. And I had both of my hands on the bottom of the steering wheel like this. And I just, at the time, decided to take my right hand off, reach in my pocket and grab a cigarette. And right as I went to go light the lighter to light the cigarette, it was like the explosion. It's like almost like I caused the explosion, like I triggered it. And next thing I saw was like smoke, fire, and a shower of sparks coming through my door. And then it was pitch black. It wasn't because I was knocked out. It was just there was so much smoke inside the truck you couldn't see anything. So my first reaction is just like, "Hey, we got hit. Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay?" And I didn't hear anything. They jumped out the truck already. They cut my legs and my hand off instantly. My hand was in the passenger seat. My legs were in the floorboard. And yeah, it happened instantly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Smoking saved my right hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Kids out there listening to this, don't listen to that. You can't say, well, smoking saved Brian's hand, Mom. So it's all right for me to smoke.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You did give up smoking.
Yeah.
You don't smoke anymore.
Vape.
He vapes. Okay.
So a little over a year, 13 months in the hospital and rehabilitation and learning, I guess, just recuperating and healing, and then learning how to take next steps. And then you said you just decided that it was about having fun. It was about living life. And you have had I mean, I was on your website, which is andersonactive.com, and I was blown away by all the stuff that you've done. I mean, from the movies and the television shows that you've been in to your relationship with Gary Sinise and just I'm sure you have some. I mean, you said there's about a million different directions we could take this conversation, but what are some of your highlights that stand out to you as far as things you've been able to do or things you've accomplished since the accident?
Okay, so here's my biggest problem or downfall is I don't remember everything. I've got a bad memory, and we've done so many events now, and I've met so many people that, I mean, 2-3 weeks after the event has happened or a month later, I don't remember any of it anymore. It's crazy. And what you said about not believing
I remember
everything
you
that
were
I've
in
done.
American Sniper. Is that right? The movie.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, he was.
I'm
And
playing.
you were just in a movie with Adam Sandler.
Yeah, the week of.
The
That's
week.
on Netflix.
Yeah, with him and Chris Rock, and
It's rock.
he's the guy that gets thrown into the balls.
I was a stunt double though. I played an 80.
Yeah, I know, but that was as good to see as it was anyone else. Just knowing that was you.
You sit there and look at my life and say, I can't believe all you've done. Well, I'm living it, and I still can't even believe all the crap that I've done. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, Bryan will let you and you know, and we were talking while you was cooking, that what was it that attracted me and everything with you? It was just that your willingness to do and to try this new stuff. I can't tell you how many times we were at a show and Bryan we're doing my show, and I do comedy magic. For anybody who don't know, it's supposed to be comedy, but Bryan would just roll by or help me. I'd get him up on stage and help him, and I'd say, "Can you give me a hand?" And he would just unreal. He has a prosthetic.
It's over there. I can grab it if you want.
It's
I'm not
it's
wearing
a
it
cool
right
looking
now.
hand. He's got another hand. Is he gonna go get it? But anyway, he would just unscrew it off and throw it on my table and go, "There you go," and it'd wheel off. And it's always a great, funny moment in the show. It also releases the tension. And when I talked about Jason about sometimes it's good to emphasize your disabilities and let people know you're okay. So when Bryan throws this hand up on my stage and walks off,
whatever, and then
it tells everybody that he's okay with this.
Oh, here you
Yeah. So he just throws that thing up at me there. You need a hand? There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know what? That's what it tells, and that's what it tells me that he's going, look, yeah, I've got this and I'm okay. And I'm going to be able to laugh and because I know I don't know, but I would feel like if I was in Bryan's shoes that I would be unscrewing my hand all the time and leaving it in places to freak my wife out. I'd put it in the freezer. I'd be doing all kinds of stuff. I'd put it in the freezer when she comes home to put it. I mean, that's the kind of person. So they just told me that's the kind of person Bryan is. That good spirited, fun.
You must have been like that before I mean, you must love comedy and laughing and and that type of stuff before the accident happened as well. Would it sound? I mean, is that correct?
Absolutely. I've always loved comedy and acting and storytelling and entertaining and that whole field of entertainment. It's and creativity. It's awesome because when you can be creative and smart about things, and you could be really funny and I have a good time with it. And Steve does the same thing. Steven, sorry, does the same kind of thing with it. Like he does it very intelligently, even though he sounds like a dumbass.
No.
He actually puts a lot of thought and heart into what he does, and it turns out amazing.
Yeah. So. Well, I tell you, and Bryan, we're going to get back to Bryan's story in just a second, but just this. I'm with Bryan and we're hanging out at one of these events and he has to go to this motocross thing where these kids are these young people and adults are racing on motor things. So Brian, he goes, I want to do it. And I'm going, what is he doing? Next thing you know, they put him on this little bike, and he just takes off. And
Wow.
he's in this race. And I'm going, why should he do it? Then I started thinking, well, how's he going to stop? Because he doesn't have the leg to put down and stop. And this is, you know how he stops? He ran right into a big thing of hay. They had a hay bale. He just crashes into it and falls over.
Oh my gosh.
And that's how he goes, well, how else was I going to stop? That's what I love about Brian.
Yeah. Like gonna live life to the fullest attitude. So when you go and speak to, when you're speaking to different groups, and Steven said he's seen you speak to a lot of high schools, what are you're obviously you're telling your story, you're sharing with them, but what are you sharing specifically with them? Are there points that you're making to them? Is there a specific message you want them to walk away thinking about?
It's, well, it all depends on, what I'm doing there, what kind of message the school had actually hired me for. A lot of it's perseverance and overcoming adversity, and also just kind of being kind to one another. I talk about bullying a little bit, lifting people up instead of tearing people down, things like that. I wing it though, so I don't have a set speech or a set bullet points that I can tell you, oh yeah, I do this. It really all just depends on, what kind of assembly is it? Like, if it's like a pep rally, it's going to be different than, a Veterans Day event, than, whatever. So it's always changing to some degree.
Okay, sure.
But the message is generally, not putting a mental block on yourself, looking at things in a different way, don't try to be so close-minded. And lift people up instead of tearing them down.
And I noticed that it's not what you can't do, is what are the things, you concentrate a lot on what you can do, or at least what you're willing to try to do. And you haven't given up on life. You hadn't just got on your couch and chair and stayed there for the rest of the time. And
right.
And you always got plans to moving on and stuff. You live in Chicago right now, and we got a little small hopes that he might be moving to Nashville.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Nashville is one of the cities he's looking at.
Okay, that'd be amazing.
So
yeah, I can't wait. I'm hoping. I mean, imagine the things we'll be able to do when I come down there. It'll be fun.
We'll have to get him at our golf club.
Oh yes.
Oh, I'm game.
Yeah.
Really.
So what do you like to do? Do you have any hobbies or anything that you do in your spare
Skateboard,
time?
video games, watch movies.
Video games, watch movies? Yeah.
And skateboarding.
Skateboarding.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was a skateboarder years and years ago when I was a teenager, and it's been a long time since I've done that. Is that something you've done for since you were a kid?
I actually skated more after I got blown up than I did before I got blown up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I love going to skateboard.
Do you live AD or BC? He's got to be you. It's after blown up and before blown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after blown up, you got into the skateboarding thing?
Yeah, and I started, snowboarding a bit, and I loved skate parks and trying things. I wasn't great or anything, but I could do a couple things, and it made me feel good about it. And then when I moved out to California, I started longboarding, and that is like my cup of tea.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like snowboarding
surfing?
on land. It's a big, longer skateboard, and you go down mountain roads on it, and you're doing like 40, 50 miles an hour.
No
just
way.
cruising through.
Wow.
Do you have to stop the same way you did on the motorcycle? You have to find a bale of hay and just crash into it?
No, you can slide. It's almost like a hockey stop on a skateboard.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I mean, this is amazing to me, because what I'm seeing here, when I go out and I speak to groups, and I feel like my story of resilience is nothing compared to Brian's story of resilience. But I sometimes people say to me, "Wow, you've done so much with your life and you've traveled and done all this stuff." But I'm blown away by what I'm hearing you say about the stuff that you're doing. I mean, you're really talking about living a almost fearless lifestyle where you're like, I will try anything, I will do anything. I mean, you're a stunt man. I think I read that you didn't you like drive like a stunt car? Like, didn't you on one of the Batman movies or something like this? Is
I
this
mean,
true?
yeah, technically, but I was just traffic. I wasn't the stunt driver, like weaving in and out. I was a regular car in traffic, keeping a distance so that they can come and weave in and out of our cars. So
Oh, okay.
I wasn't necessarily that stunt driver. And then I can't even find my car in the movie. So I'm like, I can get cut off right over there or something. But I got the paychecks and I got to meet everybody and spent like a week down there watching them film all the stunts. And it was incredible.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
what have you taken in your life from the movie industry and just hanging out with those kind of people? And because I know they have a lot of respect for you.
It made me realize how much actors and celebrities are just real people. Uh, I don't really necessarily get starstruck anymore. There might be a couple people that could still do it to me, but um, and that allows you to have a better conversation with them when you do meet them, because instead of being like, oh my god, I love you, you're awesome, I've seen everything you've ever seen or done, and then they don't have anything actually good to say except like, how you doing, how's your day, what you been up to, um, and so the conversations tend to go a lot better after that too. So that's one thing I've learned. And then, it takes a lot to put together a story like that, like a TV show or a movie. There's so much that goes into it. And I'm just happy that I got to be a part of the process. And I could be different people, even though I pretty much only played a veteran, but I get to be different people every day. And then be myself by the end of the day, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a great story in Adam Sanders. He plays he's an old man that everybody thinks he's a veteran that got blown up, but he
In
just
World War
has
II, yeah.
he just has diabetes, which is what I about lost it when you see that he lost his leg because of the sweets. It's such a funny movie. Yeah, well worth checking it out with him. But
I actually, I mean, this might be a little bit of a spoiler alert, but I die in the movie. And I didn't even get to do like any kind of death scene. What you saw was my death scene, basically.
Wow.
no, but tell us about the and again, I mean, and this show is about overcoming the things and just again, so for you, it was just the process in your mind of saying, I can either do this or this. What other choices did you have? Either be depressed and do all of that, or I'm going to go out and try to live my life the best I can. And one of the first steps you said you took, which was interesting, was you got back and did something normal. And I think that can be for anybody. Even with Jason has Tourette syndrome, he went and got in a play and he did this. He did what what you should be trying to do. And I have the speech impediment, and then I started speaking. Who would do that? I mean, that sounds crazy, but it was just like, I'm going to live my life as if I don't have this.
Right.
And again, you're restricted on some things, obviously, by the chair and everything, but still your willingness to do anything else, you had to come to that.
Right. And it's kind of really about accepting that this is who you are now. This is the way that you are now, or have always been. And it's accepting yourself. And we tell people that all the time in schools and all that. Be yourself, don't let these bullies, because you're a unique individual. And so when you go out and do things like that, the more exposure people get to you and others, people that are similar to you.
Right.
And it makes things easier, and you're breaking ceilings by doing that. And yeah, that's all we are is we are who we are.
Yeah. Was there a point in your life where you had to forgive yourself and forgive the army and forgive everybody who's saying, like, quit blaming them? Or did you have to say, I wish I'd have done this, or I wish I'd not gotten to work that day, or if I'd have made another sped up, or, you can't live your life looking back in the past and saying,
Right.
this should have never
That-
happened.
That's a way of putting it, I guess. I never felt a need that I needed to forgive anybody or felt that I forgave anybody, but I never held anybody accountable for it to begin with. Like, these are my choices. Those are my decisions. I went overseas. I got blown up. War's war. It sucks. And like, who am I going to blame for that? Like, I'm not mad at the guy that laid the bomb. I mean, if people came into America, you bet your butt I'll be laying IEDs and things like that. How could I blame that? Like, so I never felt the need to forgive the army or forgive whatever. And, they've done right by me so far. They're taking care of me. I have medical the rest of my life and I get to go to the VA. And so I've got no harsh feelings whatsoever.
That's awesome.
That's pretty amazing that you have such a, I guess, such a healthy outlook, because I think there are a lot of people out there in the world who have a victim mentality that somebody has done them wrong or that the world is not giving them what they believe they deserve. And you're saying, hey, I will own my own choices and I did what I wanted to do. And this is the reality. This is where it led me. This is where I am today.
Yeah. And the best thing that I ever did was do that, because once I started getting a little bit of whatever, I just made a decision. You know what? Whatever comes in, I'm going to say yeah. So I took every single opportunity to see where that would lead. And it brought me this amazing life that I never could have even imagined. Not even when I thought like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire by any means. But I mean, to have a life better than you could have even imagined when you were a kid, just what's that saying where the best revenge is
is a life well lived?
Yeah. And so that's one thing that I'm like, awesome, this is great. And I'm thankful that I took everything, even though I was scared to do it. I'm like, do it, just put yourself out there, see what happens. What's the worst that's going to happen? People say, oh, well, that wasn't the best I've heard.
Yeah,
that sucked.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like you've lived that way your entire life. I mean, you kind of, is life a giant, I mean, is it a giant adventure to be lived? Is that kind of like the point of view?
Yeah. I mean, there's no destination here. It's a journey. And why can't it be an adventure? I mean, that's technically really what I look at life as, is like just this huge adventure. And there's good adventures and bad adventures. And so even when I'm out in a different city and I have a bad time, I'm just like, well, that was another adventure. Learn from it, not to do that again or whatever. And so even when you fail or make mistakes or do something wrong, you learn from that. There's no regretting that because it helps you grow as a person.
I actually take notes, and I don't do this in all the books I read, but when I read your book, I highlighted and underlined a lot of things that was really got to me. This is the point we were trying to make. I'm trying to get you to say, but you said this. If you call yourself an idiot or a klutz, or you say you're not attractive, pretty soon you start believing your own bad press. You owe yourself better treatment than that. Don't ever put yourself down. There's more than enough jerks in the world who will be happy to do that for you. I'm not saying lie to yourself. I don't want to stand in front of a mirror mumbling, I'm good enough, smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. I'm just saying give yourself a break every once in a while. Don't be so hard on yourself. Imagine a good friend of yours was in your position. What would you say to him? You wouldn't criticize him or knock him down. Of course not. You'd encourage and support him. Well, you deserve the same for yourself. There was a times when I forgot to give myself a break. My mother was always there to do it for me. Your life's not over. You can still do a lot of things. And I thought, and over here you said you talked about being in therapy. You said there were many people who were always complaining, making excuse, and hating life, and they had a lot more trouble in therapy, than those who haven't learned to live life and what has happened to them. So if you are that, and that makes sense to me, a person that's trying to get better. I mean, some people are just negative people, and that's what I don't think Bryan Anderson ever was or is. That I can, then that's why within a year you're out, and that's why you're doing the things that you do. It's because you've not criticized yourself to the point, and you're not out there saying, "Hey, I can't do this." You're saying, "Why not try it?" Who knows?
And don't get me wrong, we're all gonna have bad days, and even me. I mean, once every great while, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But it's what you do the next day again. Every day is a new day, and you can choose to be in a good mood or be in a shitty mood.
Yeah, and I think that, Jason, this podcast is again talking about overcoming obstacles and doing things, changing, and yet our lives are so different, but yet in so many ways they're the same. I thought I was not very smart. I thought I was in the retard classes. I thought that I couldn't talk right. I couldn't do things right. And I believed the bad press for so many years. And it wasn't until that moment in my life where I said, I'm going to, you know what? I am who I am. And got to the ability to laugh at myself and not care, not be afraid to get up and mess up a word. And when I first met Jason had Tourette syndrome with tics and things like that. And if you hadn't seen the first episode of this, you want to go back and look at that, and there's a part where you see Jason off camera and you see these tics being very violent. You think, oh, who could live like that? Or, try to imagine that. But then Jason had to get to the point where he had to say, hey, I'm okay with it. This is what I am. This is who I am. And, and that's when your life started, really. I mean, that's what this is all about. Getting to the point where Bryan is.
Acceptance is very powerful. I love what you said in the book. I read in another book, and now Stephen just read it to us. I read in a book where he was talking about treating yourself as if you are your own best friend, having enough compassion for yourself to not be so critical. And
Right.
so, yeah. So I think the being willing to own who we are every single day is pivotal. And then, of course, like we said, compassion and all of that stuff is necessary. Bryan, go ahead.
Talk about what you're doing now and who you're working with, the eye level, and some of the things that you're doing.
So right now, the three main focuses that I really have are Pride Mobility, which is a power wheelchair company, Quantum Rehab. Pride Mobility is the mother company. Quantum's the division of complex rehab wheelchairs. And I help test and design new products. At least that's been my role. This year's been way different and I haven't done anything. And then I also work, I'm the spokesperson for USA Cares, and I'm also an ambassador for the Gary Sinise Foundation. And those are the three closest things to my heart, because I get to help people by developing new technologies that help their life be better. And then also with USA Cares, helping in their exact time of need when there's an emergency. USA Cares is really good like that, by keeping the lights on in the car in the driveway, food on the table, things like that. And other things too, career transitions. And then Gary Sinise Foundation will change your life. They do a lot with first responders, giving equipment to police officers and EMS and all kinds of stuff. And then he's building homes for soldiers. He's got these programs to help pretty much do whatever it is you need to do. And so it's like this great support system, and it's pretty incredible. So I hope to keep doing that. I hope to keep acting more. This year, again, has been very different with COVID. For the first 6 months, there were no work orders. Now, there's some things that are able to be shot, but I'm not in LA anymore, and I've already lost out on 2-3 parts by not being in LA. So I'm just like, oh man. So I hope that doesn't just dive off. I'm sure there's things I can do to help that, but
Yeah.
I'm just winging it. I'm kind of just rolling with life. And this is the longest time that I've been home since I got blown up.
Wow.
So I'm really kind of enjoying being around family, and my twin brother, he just had a baby a year and a half ago, and it's the first one in our family. So I really enjoy hanging out with my niece, little Andy Anderson. My sister was here for a while. She lived with me, but then COVID hit, and then she took off. And they just bought a house, her and her boyfriend. So I felt like I've missed out on family stuff the last 15 years because of doing everything else that I've been doing. So
Right.
it's nice to kind of just have this time. I hope it does pick back up again. I really enjoyed doing what I was doing and traveling and going out. When I'm here, I don't have that much to do. So that can be challenging in itself.
Sure.
Why I've been playing a lot of video games and watching a
What,
lot of.
was there any, would you say that by doing for others, there were, being willing to help other people, I think is one of those pivotal things that it's just like something happens mentally when you are seeing yourself help other people accomplish things in their life. Were you like that before the accident? Is that something you've always been willing to do? Was there any healing involved when you started working with these groups that help people?
I couldn't tell you if there's any healing. I mean, I'm sure there was. I mean, helping other people is a very gratifying thing. Makes you feel good, and some people would say that, well, that's selfish because it makes you feel good for helping that person out. um, you know, you're just impacting change, and I like that. I want to be able to help, but that's one of the reasons I joined the military, was because I always wanted to be able to help the little guy and do things that most people don't, or find insane to do, I guess. I always wanted to protect the little guy and do what I can. And I was a gymnast. I was very athletic. Even though I was a little guy, everybody laughed at me when I said I'd be an MP. They're like, yeah, you're going to go to a bar fight and you're going to be one tossed out the window. But uh, yeah, I'm sure that there's healing involved. And I'm sure that my memory is just so bad that I'm not remembering specific moments or
Sure.
things like that. But I helped build a house for my buddy. So I was doing an episode of Hawaii 5-0, and I was in Hawaii filming that. I was there for like 11 days and 8 days. Yeah, 8 days, I think. And during the day, I would have times where I didn't have to be there, or I wasn't working or doing anything. And so I would try to meet up with anybody that I knew of that was in the area, especially Army buddies or things like that. Well, one of my buddies, really good buddies, Sergeant Tony Wood, he lived in Hawaii. And he actually got blown up 2 months before I did.
Wow.
Everybody was killed in that except for him. And he had shrapnel go through every major organ of his body. And he was actually a little of a bigger guy. Well, the first person that wasn't my family that walked into my room like a day or two after I woke up at Walter Reed was him, because he was already there. And so that made me feel like I wasn't there alone. At least somebody that I knew was going through the same things that I'm going through right now.
Wow.
So that meant a lot, and that we kind of bonded and connected through there. And then he did really great. He lost a lot of weight. He looked great. He actually he didn't get discharged from the military. He went back to Hawaii. He's non-deployable, but he could work on the base in the unit, and he went back to being a soldier, which was incredible. Now he's now retired and all that, but while I was there in Hawaii, we'd go and have lunch and we'd talk about our lives and what was happening. And I'd learned that he was, him and his wife were foster parents to 10 kids. And they gave so much of themselves out. And I'd go to his house and I'm looking at this house like, holy crap, it's kind of falling apart. And like with all that salt water in Hawaii, everything just rusts and rots. And so they had a wrought iron railing that you could have just pushed over with 10 kids going through there. So it was just kind of like, damn. He was telling me how 2 weeks ago that he had to grab like 10 soldiers and dig out their some pump or the septic tank. It was just nasty work and everything was just not good. So then I just looked at him and I was like, I'm gonna do something about this. And we're at the lunch table now, and I'm just like, well, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's these organizations that are building homes for soldiers or helping with things like this. Gary was one of them. And so then as I just looked at him, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna build you a house, dude. Like, I'm gonna do what I can to get you a house built. I'm gonna handle this.
Wow.
Whether I do it all by myself or I get help, I'm doing this. And he's just looked at me and he goes, what am I supposed to say to that? And I'm like, thanks. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You don't need to say anything. Like, it's just good, cool, good. And I left Hawaii and I called Gary Sinise up right away. And I was like, hey man, I'm going to need your help with something. And Gary didn't even ask what it was.
Something that you were going to do.
What?
You just made that. I just made a promise for you
Basically,
that you're going to make.
Well,
Help me,
Gary
man.
didn't even ask me what it was. He just said, okay, I got your back. I'm like, yeah, okay,
Wow.
cool.
That's
I don't know
amazing.
what that means, but okay, cool. And so then a few months go by, 4 or 5 months, and then I moved to LA. And now I get out to LA and I'm living there and I'm near Gary, and my roommate's mother was big into veterans foundations and things like that. And I told her about what I was trying to do and that I wanted to build this house for this guy. And she's like, all right, all on board, let's get it. And I'm like, all right, let's start doing this. And so I start trying to figure out, you know, where to get materials and vendors and, you know, people to donate time and skills. And we start doing this. And then I call Gary up and I'm like, all right, Gary, it's been like 4 months, 5 months. Remember how a while back I said I was going to need your help and this and that? Well, I'm trying to build this house for my buddy. He got blown up in Iraq. I gave him the whole spiel. And Gary goes, okay, cool, I got your back. I'm like, what does that mean? No. And then that's the end of the phone call. So I'm just like, crap. Okay. So I just continued doing what I was doing. Calling people to donate materials and things like that. And then 3 days later, Gary calls me back and he goes, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, well, what do you mean? What am I doing? I'm trying to get this house built that I want your help with. And he's like, well, I thought you wanted my help. I'm like, I do. And then there's the awkward silence. I'm just like, I thought you wanted me to do it. I'm like, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, I thought when you wanted my help that I would just do it. And I'm like, well, crap, I don't care how it gets done. If you're going to do it, fine, great. That's awesome. But I didn't know what I got your back meant. And he goes, well, there's one of two ways we could do this, a slow way and a fast way. And if we have to do it the slow way, you could do all you want, but give me a couple days. Let me see what I got. So he calls me back a couple days later and goes, I got it done the fast way. I'm like, well, okay, what's that? And he goes, you know, the chef, Robert Irvine, hosts Restaurant Impossible, or
Oh yeah.
yeah, something like that. And he's like, well, we had met a couple weeks ago and we wanted to do something for veterans. And he had talked about doing a Restaurant Impossible for a veteran or to help a military member out. So Gary talked him into doing my buddy's house.
Oh wow.
And so like within that next month, all 3 of us or 4 of us, even Nick Searcy joined us, flew down to Hawaii, put this family up in a hotel and built them a new house basically. And mine and Tony's old commander for our unit our company commander, was now the battalion commander in Hawaii. So I called him up and I was like, hey, we need like manpower, some soldiers. And he's like, I got you. And he sent 300 soldiers down to his house.
Wow.
We gutted that house in 22 minutes. It was insane. And 7 days later, he had a new house. And that was 6 months from the time that I looked at him and said, I'm going to build you a house. And so.
And you just made the declaration.
One of my accomplishments, that's it.
Yeah. You just said, oh, I'm going to do this. And then you just went about doing it. That's unbelievable.
I willed it happen.
With some help, but yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
It is incredible.
Is there any other questions you want to pose to him or any points you want to make, Stephen?
No, man, I just.
Oh, and you can see it on Restaurant Impossible.
Oh, real? Oh, so they, oh yeah. So they actually put it as part of the TV show.
Yeah.
I thought there was something on that Hawaiian 5-0 show too about the house or something.
No, I did
that was part of a story.
I did an episode of Magnum PI.
At Magnum PI. Okay.
And they gave me a house. So I had to act like I was getting a house.
Yeah, but you didn't get that house yet, though. He didn't have your back like Gary.
No. No, but they gave me a TV wife and she was pretty hot. That was pretty hot.
Yeah, she was. Way above your pay level.
Nah, come on.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to end with this last thing from your book, and then Jason's going to show you a trick. This is from, don't really necessarily have chapters, so 14. But this was the highlight. This is what I got from reading your book. And, that really kind of got to me in my life and the thinking things. It says, sometimes it's precisely because you've been through something terrible that later you get a chance to do something wonderful. And if you don't remember that, saying that, you should remember that. That should go in every speech. But often that you go through bad things just so you have a chance to do something wonderful. And sometimes it's for other people. Sometimes it's for yourself or because of your life and stuff. And that's what we're hoping this podcast is about, is that you've taken so I'm sure there's a lot of people that would look at Bryan Anderson, see you going down the street in a wheelchair, no legs and hand missing and think, oh, that poor guy.
Yeah, little do they know.
And without even knowing that Bryan's is a heck of a man and
that's
stuff.
And that's, assuming is the assumption of, or the mother of all F-ups.
Yeah.
I kind of really took it, like, I really believe everything happens for a reason. We are who we are for a reason. It's just kind of the magic of life. And that kind of goes to that like saying of, sometimes you have to go through something bad to go experience something wonderful. It's if you're always having a good time, you lose that value of going through a bad time or the value of that good time because it's just your norm. And so when you have a little diversity of trauma or experiences, it makes you appreciate things a little bit more.
Yeah, guys, do yourself a favor and pick up his book, No Turning Back, if you want to take a look at that. And check Bryan out on his website. Jason will have all that stuff.
We will have all that stuff in the show notes.
And Bryan, we always end with a magic trick because that's what we do. And we can't eat none of your pumpkin seeds. So unfortunately, you're going to have to
just like throw them through the screen. Right?
That would be the most awesome trick. But you're going to have to be the audience member of this trick. So everybody's going to be watching your face and making. You have no, yeah, you're doing
the one. That's the one.
He's doing good. Maybe get Maya over here too. But you don't know nothing about the trick or anything. So this is just set up. It's happening to Bryan live. You just have to trust me on that.
All right, Brian, the podcast is called Do the Impossible, since we have to do at least one magic trick in the thing. So here it is. I have 4 playing cards. It looks like I'm just holding one, but there's a small stack of 4 right here. I want you to pretend as though I'm holding the 4 queens. So pretend in your mind, imagine that we've got the queen of clubs, hearts, spades, and diamonds. Now, this is a game of imagination. I'm going to reach in, I'm going to pluck out 2 of the queens, imaginary style. So you just have to imagine them. Now, the 2 queens that I plucked out, so that you're looking at them right here in my fingertips in your imagination, did I take out the 2 red ones or did I take out the 2 black ones? It's your choice.
Oh, there can't be one of each though?
It's one or the other.
Okay. You want me to tell you or just have it in my hand?
Yeah, just name whichever one that I took out.
The 2 black ones.
So I took out the 2 black queens, set them right here. Now that means there's 2 red queens still inside. There's a diamond and a heart. I'm going to take out another one out. Which one do you want me to take out? The diamond or the heart?
The heart.
Take out the heart, which means there's still a diamond inside there, correct?
Yes.
Here's what's amazing about this, Brian. Check this out. Before we began, I said it was a game of imagination. I played this game. I turned 1 card over in the pack. It is, in fact, the Queen of Diamonds. Now, here's the thing that's crazy about this, Brian. Check this out. People see this and they think to themselves, well, what would have happened if I had made some sort of a different decision? And the simple fact of the matter is it wouldn't have worked because I have 4 playing cards, 3 of which are blue back cards. 1 is a red back card, the only queen. And the reason I say it's the only queen is because the other 3 cards aren't even printed on. They have no printing whatsoever.
That's fantastic. That's good job. Good job,
Yeah.
man.
It's a great trick when they pick the diamonds. It really is. And,
You screwed any other way. No, that was great. That was good. Good job, man. Good job.
It's the fan the other way.
Exactly. So, Brian, we really appreciate your time. We thank you so much. For people to learn more about you, I'm guessing they should visit your website, andersonactive.com. And if they want to contact you, I'm sure they can do that through your website, correct?
Absolutely. And Facebook too.
Yep. And again, Brian, in the future, if you run into anybody you think would help us out on this show, feel free to send that to me and their name. We would love to have them. And again, anybody listening to this, if you have some people that has gone through some tough times and made it through the other side, that you think might be good guests for our show, feel free to contact us on the information with Jason Michaels and hopefully for a future podcast.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you. I appreciate it too.
Thank you for listening to Do the Impossible with Jason and Steven. Please subscribe for future episodes. Our home on the internet is jasonmichaelsmagic.com/podcast. That's jasonmichaelsmagic.com/podcast. To contact us, please visit the website and fill out the form. Now go out and do the impossible in your world.